Hello everyone, it is a beautiful sunny Thursday afternoon out here in Cartersville, Georgia. As you can hear behind me, the generator is humming along nicely, supplying power to the air conditioner where Nestor is staying in the camper for now. It is about 12:45 and I am standing outside the Ediwo Archaeological Museum. So let's go on in and see what we can learn. Right when you come in, as you go up the ramp into the museum, there are pictures from an excavation that was done in the 1950s and 60s. And that excavation was done on the burial mound. There were 3 large mounds and 3 smaller mounds at one point. The burial mound, what was known as Mound C, was completely excavated, and here are some of the pictures of that being done. This is an aerial picture from the 1950s and 60s to kind of give you an idea, but you can still see the excavation being done here. As far as these two go, they never excavated these. The most that they did was some testing, and where they just kind of dug into it a little ways, and they found the remnants of a clay staircase going up Mound A, the largest one. So they found the staircase, and they started to uncover that, and that staircase went almost all the way to the top. That's really as far as they wanted to go, just finding that clay staircase, the logs, and the width of the staircase and all that. And some artifacts that did show evidence of this being a ceremonial temple and a chief's residence. So then they covered that back up and they built the staircase over top of it, the one that we use now. You can see back there through the big window, that is that staircase. And right here they have a model that kind of gives you an idea of what the village may have looked like. And so there you've got the chief's mound right there, and a couple of other platforms on the side of it that they're not sure what it was for. The Ediwo Indians that occupied this area were said to be actually predated the Chickasaw and the Cherokee that we most know about today. The Shawnee, the Chickasaw, the Cherokee, the Choctaw. The Ediwo Indians actually were around before them for a long time, and they were able to unearth a lot of artifacts from the testing of Site A and the excavation of Site C, of Mound C. And they even found some evidence that they had a way of processing copper, because there are axe heads made out of copper, as well as some fish hooks made out of copper. And of all these, really, the weapons and the talisman, all of that stuff, one of the most impressive things that they found was these marble effigies. Now, the amazing thing about the marble effigies is that these were carved before the invention of steel, like steel chisels. So to be able to carve these with just stone technology, stone and copper, must have been a very hard process. And you can see that the outside of these statues are smooth. So they were carved and then polished with sand and stuff like that, which must have taken a long time to do. Been very hard. And then they were painted, and whatever paint it was that they used was really good, because the paint is still there, so you can still see the black and you can still see the red, and you can see what they were going for. Now, they don't know exactly why these effigies were buried at the base of, what was it, C. Yeah, they were buried at the base of Mound C. Now, they don't know exactly what these effigies were for, but they do have 16th century Spanish accounts that did encounter the Ediwo Indians and they reported seeing wooden and stone effigies of nobles and sons. The longbows that they used were said to be so refined and powerful that they could pass an arrow through a large animal. When you find a smashed pot, and this piece is buried over here, and this one is buried over here, and you uncover them and they fit together, that gives you a timeline, a little bit of a timeline, because you can tell those two were buried about the same time because they came from the same pot. So you can actually link parts of the site together with bits of clay pot. And this right here, this some kind of cloth, looks so intricate that you can't imagine something this painstaking could have been done without the use of some kind of machine, a loom, of some kind of factory machine. But no, completely done by hand. The netting here, more of it over there. And then down here is one of the most amazing things to me. Of course, they found bone fish hooks, but that one right there in the middle, that's a copper fish hook. The Ediwo Indians had a way of making copper fish hooks. Now, this is a great representation of the way they would build their longhouses. And to me, this is ingenious. They would just weave together a bunch of like saplings and branches and stuff like this, get that nice and sturdy, and then cover it with some kind of cob, and then waterproof the top with tree bark. And I'd imagine these probably lasted a long time, and if anything ever happened to it, you just go get a few more handfuls of cob and patch it up. And there you go. You got yourself a nice, comfortable home. Think about the genius of this, too. Now, imagine telling somebody that lives in one of these. Somebody that they built it probably over a matter of a few weeks or maybe a summer, and it cost them $0. Tell somebody that lives in one of these that people nowadays that are more civilized and smarter will work for 30 years to pay off a home. They would probably look at you like, what, y'all are the smarter ones? And up here you've got a fish trap in a canoe. These were built as replicas according to different accounts and drawings of the kinds of fish traps and canoes that they used back then. And if you can imagine, we still have bait traps and stuff like lobster, crab traps that look just like this, only made out of metal and wiring and stuff like that. I think I'm going to end out the museum portion of the video on this wonderful painting here before I go on out and actually walk on the remaining two mounds. But this is, you can tell this was a really thriving society before they 4 out of 5 of them died from like smallpox and chickenpox and typhus and all kinds of diseases that came over by the Europeans. That was their downfall. But this river right here is called the Ediwo River, named after the Ediwo Indians. And I've actually fished on it myself. I've taken my kayak out on that river and caught and ate fish out of there. And so there you go. The co-chief mound there, burial mound, and then the chief's temple / residence there. And then these other three mounds that I'm not sure, I don't think they know exactly what they were for, but there are 3 smaller ones right here. I think they're only about 3 meters tall. Whereas that one was 6, this one was 7, and that was 19. Alright, so let's go do that now. Let's walk 19 meters up into the air, or 63 feet, up this staircase that is built on top of where the original clay staircase led up to that ancient chief temple over 1,000 years ago. Oh, this is nice. Right at the base they actually have a picture where they had uncovered the original clay staircase right there before they covered it up. Now it's underneath here, protected by the new staircase. Time-lapse mode, start. And we're at the top. Only just a little bit out of breath. Wow. Walking up here on top of this mound just makes me wonder, what was the mindset of these people? What kind of things did they love, desire, dream about? What was their story? What was their motivations? What did they want out of life? And really, they accomplished so much. They went from being like cavemen in the Stone Age, the Paleolithic, to being hunter-gatherers and building and making things like spears and inventing the bow and arrow, to gathering up and building and learning how to make pottery and process copper and even sculpt marble. And then to cultivate and to not just hunt and gather, but to plant and become farmers even. And then to build something like this. This is not a little Indian village. This is a town, almost a city, realistically, with a giant monolith that I'm standing on that overlooked this society. It makes me wonder if they had been left alone, if they hadn't been killed off by all the smallpox and chickenpox and cholera and scarlet fever and jaundice and all this stuff that was brought over that they had no defense to. If none of that had happened, if they had just been left alone, where would they have developed to? You know, they did all that they did without even the invention of the wheel yet. They still used skis and sleds and just drag stuff around. But if they had, you know, invented roads and the wheel and become more unified and made a central government and been left alone to just continue to develop, what would have happened? Where would they be now? I can't help but wonder. Okay, enough about that. Look, I actually just found something right here. It's some kind of purple rock inside of a red piece of cloth that's just sitting right in the center of the Indian mound right here on the top. Somebody came by and left this. I wonder about the story of that too. Is this some kind of out of respect, or is this somebody that actually took this stone as a souvenir and then thought that it was haunted and they had bad luck and then returned it? Who knows? There's a lot of historic sites that kind of stuff happens at. And right here in the distance, appropriately enough, we have the power plant, Plant Bowen in Cartersville. And I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to turn the camera around where you can see it a little better. See it right there? Yeah, about 5 years ago now, I actually spent a few weeks working out there. I was part of the Pipe Fitters Union, Local 72. Working out there, I was miserable. And what I was working on, if I remember right, it was the ammonia scrubbers. And that's where the smoke that comes out of this power plant is mostly steam, because there's a lot of environmental regulations about the emissions. First, the smoke has to go through a long chimney that has a bunch of ammonia sprayers that will knock a lot of the scale and ash out of the smoke and drop it back to the bottom and then collect it and used in drywall or sheetrock. But the ammonia scrubbers had worn out, and we had to go in and cut them off and replace them, which was a job that took a few weeks. And if you can imagine going inside that chimney with all the ash and everything everywhere, a giant respirator on, welding, and I didn't actually. It was a pretty good job, really. But now, 5 years later, I'm self-employed. I've got a YouTube channel with 400 subscribers, and I'm making a historic video off in the distance, just looking at that part of my past. It feels pretty good, really. Well, I thought Mound C, the burial mound, was completely gone, but it's actually still here. There's pictures of its excavation there. But I'm just learning that after the excavation, they went back and they put it back as best they could. There was 350 burial remains found inside this 6-meter high mound back in the 50s and 60s when it was excavated. And then it was all put back together. Wow, didn't know they could do that. From here you can see the side of the Chief Temple Mound a little better and see the other platforms on the other side of it. And they're not actually sure what these side platforms were for. Last one, the Co-Chief Mound, over there. Let's go on top of that one too. They don't really know what this was for, if it was vice president or co-chief kind of deal. I like to think this was probably where the chief stayed when he got tired of walking up those stairs. You can't expect the president to stay in the White House all the time. It's too much pressure, my goodness. So that's my guess. And here we are. The last one, summit of Mound B. There's Mound C over there, Mound A right there. And also from the top here, you can kind of see the river right there. You can see how they placed this village right next to this teeming river so they could fish easily and have water for cleaning stuff and for drinking, of course, and all that kind of stuff. Strategically placed, very close to this nice river. And that's gonna do it, guys. If you enjoyed this vlog, please don't forget to indicate so by hitting that thumbs up like button. Leave something down in the comment section that I can reply to. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please subscribe, and make sure to ring that bell icon so you'll start receiving notifications of all my future updates. That is, when YouTube feels like sending them out. And once again, thank you for getting me to the 400 mark. I really am very, very grateful for that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.